Okay, well, I think I'll conclude this series looking at what Andrew Johnson has to say with this energy video. Infinite energy, but not for the masses. I'll leave a link to this below so you can watch the entire video if you like. Certainly no evidence for free energy. There's no evidence for a secret space program. He's presented no evidence for anti-gravity. He's presented no evidence for 9/11 being an inside job. He's presented no evidence for a directed energy weapon being involved. He's presented no evidence for the Hutchison effect being applied, or free energy or anything else. Okay, but let's just have a look at. If you think otherwise, just leave a link to something below and I'll take a look at it. But I haven't seen any evidence from Andrew Johnson for any of the things I just mentioned.
Devices using very high voltages, greater than 50,000 volts, you get these effects popping out. Using strong magnetic fields, you get effects popping out. And high frequency oscillations of electric current or magnetic field. You get these anomalous energy effects coming out of these systems.
There is some truth in that, but they're not anomalous effects. They may appear anomalous, but they're all easily explained with the current laws of physics as we understand them. Now, as an aside, many years ago, some friends and myself decided to put a pirate radio station on the air. On the AM band, on the medium wave band. So, I can't remember how powerful this transmitter was. As far as broadcasting transmitters goes, it was pretty low power. But it might have been 500 watts or 1,000 watts, something like that. And we were running it from a domestic house. And we had a wire antenna going down the garden, a few parallel wires. We tuned it all up and got a reception report from a little way away and a few miles away. And the signal was good enough that it was worth doing the broadcast. And so we started programming. We had the disc jockeys, and they're all doing their thing. And the fellow next door said, come and knocked on the door, and he said, do you know that your radio station is coming out of my toaster? And I said, no. And he said, yeah, come and have a look. So went around there, and sure enough, there's his toaster on the kitchen table there, on the worktop for the kitchen. And you could hear the elements in the toaster going. You could tell what track was being played. You could hear the music from the toaster. So that would be one of the anomalous effects. That a similar sort of thing to the anomalous effects Andrew Johnson is describing, but it's not an anomalous effect. It's just a fairly strong electromagnetic field that's being modulated with program information, and it was just inducing a voltage and current into the element in his toaster. And similar experience with someone else told me about this. They were operating a pirate radio station in a house. The bottom of the house was occupied by somebody else. And they were programming late into the night, and they could hear this guy come home from the pub, and he was shouting and screaming and hollering and all this sort of stuff, banging and crashing about. And the following day, they saw him, and they said, what was all that banging and crashing about? He said, you're not going to believe this. He said, I got home from the pub last night. He said, and that the fluorescent, he didn't actually say fluorescent, but it was a fluorescent tube. He said, the light was on in the kitchen. I thought I turned it off. And he said, it looked like it was pulsating. And he said, I turned the light switch off and it didn't turn off. So I got up on the chair and took the tube out of the socket, and it was still alight and pulsating in my hands. And they fell about laughing, because it was the field from the the field from the radio station that was producing this effect. But so they can look a bit strange, some of these effects, but it's not suppressed energy or secret energy or anything else. It's all well understood stuff. Electromagnetic fields, radio frequency energy, that sort of thing. Okay, that said, let's see what he's got to say.
And there's loads of them, hundreds, thousands. And I'm just going to show you an example here. This isn't a free energy experiment particularly, but it's a reproduction of...
It's not a free. It's not a free energy experiment, particularly. So, and I think he's thrown the particular. I think he's telling us that because somewhere during the demonstration, the chap actually says it's connected to a 10,000 volt transformer, which of course is plugged into the wall socket. So he can't peddle this as free energy, but he thinks this is something magical. It's some sort of a different sort of energy.
One of Tesla's experiments, and the point I want to show you is that this is a different type of electricity which is being shown in this experiment.
What's being shown in the experiment is high frequency AC. It's completely understood, fully compliant with the laws of physics. Nothing magical or mysterious about it at all.
And what we're going to see is essentially a 100-watt bulb held underwater being illuminated.
Gasp.
Good afternoon. I'm going to show you a few things that Tesla has sent us.
He goes into a bit of a description, and there's a bit of music.
Now, bear in mind, I think Tesla came up with this in 1895. You know, it's in a number of books. It's on the internet. You can replicate this if you want to. Nothing secret about it whatsoever. I really wouldn't replicate it unless you're familiar with working with high voltage systems, because if you do go and get a neon light transformer off of eBay, you know, 10 or 15,000 volts at 30 milliamps, you can get them cheap enough. You could replicate this pretty easily. Go down the hardware store, buy a bit of copper tubing. It's not terribly expensive. I think Andrew Johnson says somewhere there's about $200 worth of copper tubing there. That's nonsense. You could probably get I don't know, 3 meters of that stuff for under $100. But I really would not recommend that you go and do this. Certainly, if you're not familiar with working with high voltage systems, it could kill you. So yeah, leave it alone.
While the experiment
Page 134, figure 19. You'll see the circuit right here. And also the same circuit.
Well, I'm glad we could see that circuit. I'll show you in the next clip. I'll show you that circuit so you can actually see what's going on there.
It can be found in his book, The Innovations in Research and Writings of Nikola Tesla. In this book.
So this is all readily available. So why is Andrew peddling this as something different, something special? I wonder.
Here, it's found in several places. The one we're going to be demonstrating today will be on figure 183. Also, I've gained some of this information from Jerry Bossolato's book, Lost Science, and his other book, Secrets of Cold War Technology. Both are invaluable.
Yeah, they may be invaluable if your floor's not level, you know, and you need something of that thickness to stop your table wobbling. Under those circumstances, they may be invaluable. But otherwise, I suspect there's not going to be much of any value in there.
Here you'll see my setup.
Now, notice that he describes the setup, but he doesn't describe how it works.
It's 2 copper rods connected across the top with another copper rod that is on a slidable scale. I can slide it up and down. I have lowered it from the higher position today just so you can see it on the film. My camera's not quite tall enough to catch the whole thing.
Yeah, so you can't lower it down too far though because it will stop his lamps lighting.
But it slides up and down. It's just 2 parallel bars of copper. The bottom of there's capacitors, just like he says in his book, and a spark gap in the front here, powered by a 10,000 volt transformer at the back,
which is plugged into a wall socket.
And I'll be connecting light bulbs across the bars on these 2 slidable points, both of which independently slidable. All light bulbs are 110 volt bulbs. The only little bulb will be this bulb right here, which is a 12 volt light bulb.
Well, all the light bulbs are not 120 volt bulbs then, are they? This guy needs to make his mind up. So all the bulbs are 120 volt bulbs, and he said, well, except for this one, which is actually a 12 volt bulb.
That's for out of an automobile type bulb. And this fluorescent tube here, I don't think it has a voltage reading
So I'm getting bored, can't you? Come on, get on with it.
on it. And we also have this big fluorescent tube over here. So I'll turn the machine on now. Arc is quite loud, so I won't be talking during this part of the demonstration.
Mercifully. There's probably all sorts of nasty stuff coming off of that arc. They're worried about 5G. He could, after this, he could take himself down the chemist and get himself developed, I suspect.
The bottom of this video appears to have been cut off because it's the aspect ratio of the screen.
Now, note as he moves the lamp towards the top, where the shorting bar is, the voltage along the bars is getting lower and lower and lower. The lamp is getting dimmer and dimmer.
Is wrong, so you can't see the spark gap at the bottom, just below this bottom thing.
And the closer he's getting to the bottom of the bars, which is where the source of the energy is, going into the bottom there, the brighter it gets.
The spark going. And you've seen something. I mean, what this is very similar to what the chap downstairs has got with his experiment. He doesn't do the underwater bit, which is coming up in a minute.
When he touches the tube onto the bar, the other lamp that's across the bars gets dimmer. There's no extra energy coming from anywhere. The energy that's going into the tube is taken from the bars, so the other lamp isn't getting it.
Downstairs, if you haven't already had a go
And brighter again. Now note he's clipping a wire onto one of the bars here. The other end of the wire goes to the end of the tube that's in his hand. And you can see the wire more clearly. You can see the wire more clearly here. If it was a more powerful field, you wouldn't need that wire. It would just illuminate. You know, if you went to a high power AM radio station and you took a tube sort of thing out of a light fitting from your house, neon tube, and you got reasonably close to the antenna, didn't get too close to it obviously, the tube would light up in your hand. You look like Luke Skywalker, and it would pulsate with the modulation, with the information that's on the signal. As the electromagnetic field expands and gets larger and smaller in amplitude with an AM radio station, so the tube would pulsate. Again, these are not. There's no magic there. You know, that's just the radio frequency energy from the antenna. And what's happening here is this is a high frequency AC circuit. Is what's happening here. He doesn't explain what this actually is. He describes it, but he doesn't explain what it is. This is if it's shorted at the top, there's got a capacitor there, there's a capacitor there. This is a series tuned circuit. It's got a spark gap across the bottom, and he's feeding 10,000 volts from the mains across the spark gap. So the voltage is applied. It arcs across between the two terminals of the spark gap, and as it does so, the voltage collapses, and then the arc is remade. It collapses. It's remade, collapses, and as it does that, and that's what makes all the noise. As it does that, it's charging and discharging the capacitors through this inductance. That's what the copper pipe is. It's an inductance. You've got a capacitor there, capacitor there. It's a series tuned circuit. So what he's actually doing is he's generating high frequency AC. I think it's about 50 or 60 kilohertz usually these things run at. And with high frequency AC, or RF, radio frequency energy, you get voltage nodes, voltage peaks and troughs around around the circuit. It's not like a DC. If you put a battery on there, if you put the mains voltage on there, you'd have to take the bar off, of course. But the voltage will be the constant across the bars all the way along, pretty much. There'll be some slight resistance. Effectively, it will be the same. So, but with this circuit, it isn't, because it's a tuned circuit. You can have high voltage at the bottom, and with a bar at the top, you'll have no voltage across the top. So as you move the lamp up, it gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And when Tesla did this experiment, he had a 120 volt bulb here, a 50 volt bulb here, and a low voltage bulb up here. And that's because the voltage gets lower as you get closer to the top, because it's high frequency AC. So again, there's nothing anomalous here. There's nothing magic. This is not a different type of energy. This is all fully compliant with the laws of physics as we understand them. This is nothing about this is suppressed. It's just a run-of-the-mill. It's a sort of party trick, really. Tesla probably did it to pull in a bit of investment money, maybe. But it's of no practical use whatsoever, apart from broadcasting. I mean, high-frequency ACs. I mean, if you listen to radio stations, watch television, or off-air television, then you're using electromagnetic energy, and that's all that's going on here. It's high-frequency AC. There'll be a bit of electromagnetic energy because it's a series tuned circuit, so this is probably radiating a bit as well. If you had a similar apparatus close to it, you could probably light a bulb on that without having it connected. But nothing magical there, nothing unusual. So he's got the wire connected to the other side of the circuit there, just to or to ground possibly, just to encourage this to light up, because there's not a huge amount of power in the circuit. Whatever power is in this circuit will be considerably less than the power that it's pulling out of the main socket. It's run-of-the-mill high-frequency AC energy. I think it was Arthur C. Clarke, wasn't it, that said any sort of advanced technology to the people that don't understand technology would appear as magic. And I think Andrew Johnson either really doesn't understand this, and I think he probably does, because there's a physics aspect to the uni degree. Richard D. Hall could certainly put him right with what's going on here, being an electrical engineer. So why he's peddling this as some sort of different type of energy, who knows? He probably expects his audience not to be technical people, and he expects them to be impressed by this sort of thing. But what is actually happening here, because it's high frequency AC, they don't do it on this, but I've seen another presentation where they'll take one crocodile clip off the end of the halogen lamp. This is a halogen lamp. And you can actually see the high voltage arcing onto the pin, and the guy obviously holds the insulated part of the crocodile clip. He doesn't hold the crocodile clip at that point. Once it's clipped onto the lamp, the resistance of the filament on the lamp, and I suspect they use a halogen lamp because it's probably a little bit lower when it's running, when it's hot, than an ordinary lamp, so the voltage across it will be that much lower. So the voltage pretty much collapses across here, and what is actually illuminating it is the AC high frequency current that's running through it. So you can just put your hand across the terminals and you won't feel anything. That's what's going on here. It's nothing revolutionary, suppressed, non-compliant with physics. It's not a different type of energy at all. All right, so I'll move on to the next clip, and I'll show you someone else that's replicated this, and then I'll show you something similar. That is a sort of run-of-the-mill piece of equipment that has been in use for many years, communications antenna, called a magnetic loop antenna, and we can see the voltage and current distribution in that. So with AC, high frequency AC, I think I said this a bit earlier, isn't it? You know, the voltage varies along, although it's only effectively one conductor, the voltage along it will vary. And people think, oh, how can you have a different voltage at one point on this apparatus than you do on another?
Looks like.
When we get to the magnetic loop antenna, you'll be able to clearly see that with a ring of copper tube, just with a 1-inch gap in it, the voltage around the ring and the current distribution around the ring are different at different points along the ring. There's nothing magical to this. This is all well understood. Let's see what else he's got to say here, but I think that's enough. Might as well.
Electricity, but it isn't.
Yes, it is. It's common or garden high frequency AC.
Not in the normal sense, or what we would consider normal.
It certainly is completely normal.
This experiment's probably over 100 years old.
Which should give you some indication of how how wonderful this is. You know, it was a party trick in 1895, and it's a party trick now. Not suppressed, fully compliant with the current laws of physics, well understood. And yeah, it's just not of any practical use for certainly not for anything to do with power distribution. You know, it's okay for broadcasting. You know, get higher in frequency and you use the energy to radiate signals through the air. But for what they're suggesting here, it's completely impractical. That's why. I'll say that's why it's not in use today. Apart from the fact that it's extremely inefficient. The other reason it wouldn't be used today is that you'd need huge electromagnetic fields everywhere to be able to pull any energy out of, and that could have some nasty effects on anyone that actually wanted to use it.
So if that's what you could do, you know, just on your bench top, what can the military-industrial complex do?
They wouldn't do anything with that because it's a party trick. It's completely inefficient. If you actually looked at the luminance of the lamps, if you hang the lamps on there and you say, well, okay, well this is a 50-watt bulb. It looks like it's illuminated 50%, so we've got 25 watts there, and you applied the same sort of thing to the other lamps, and then you measured the power coming out of the wall socket going into the 10,000 volt transformer that's running it. You'll find there's a hell of a lot more power going in than you're getting out of the system to illuminate your lamps. It's not very efficient at all. It's the industrial military complex is not going to be doing anything with this. All right, let's move on to the next clip. And here we have the Tesla hairpin circuit replication and experimental results. This is on a waveguide.blog. I'll leave a link to this below so you can have a look at this, and this links to some videos that you might find interesting if you're interested in this sort of thing. Oh, and something I didn't mention in the previous video was that Karl Plasner's only had one lamp strapped across the bars. You know, the Tesla experiment is a tube at the bottom, then a 120 volt lamp a bit further up, then a 50 volt lamp or 40 volt lamp a bit further up, and then a low voltage lamp above that. And we only see Karl Plasner's strap one lamp across it. So this guy here has done a better job. He's got this waveguide guy. He's got the 3 lamps all illuminated there. Now they do have to be different values, these lamps. So for Karl Plasner's to say they're all 120 volt lamps, yeah, I'd take that with a pinch of salt, to be honest, because it actually says in the article, and Tesla himself says that you know, unless you have these lamps in the correct positions, so you have the low volt lamp at the top, then the next one down is a little bit higher, and the next one down is a little bit higher, either they won't light or they won't light very well. So something a bit odd going on with his presentation. A bit of fanciful nonsense creeping in there, I suspect. So anyway, there's a series of videos there from Carl Polsness, and again, this site here that I'm going to link to will link to these videos if you want to watch them. There's what this guy's done. You can see he's got his copper tube, and he's got the capacitors at the bottom. There's close up there, the capacitors. I think he changed this arrangement to make it a little more efficient. Very inefficient way of doing things, this is. So there you go, you've got your copper pipe goes up through there, through 90 degrees, back down again. A couple of capacitors at the bottom forming a series tuned circuit. Again, nothing magical, that series tuned circuit. So let's just get to the bit that I wanted to show you. Bit of an explanation about what's going on, how it works. It's not a bad thing. If you're interested in this sort of stuff, this is quite an interesting interesting article. It's talking about using thicker bars, because once you start talking about high frequency AC, radio frequency energy, you start getting something called the skin effect, where the high frequency current actually runs around the outside, the circumference, if you like, of the bars. So the larger in diameter they are, the more efficiently they will conduct the AC energy, high frequency AC energy. There's a bit there on standing waves. There's his improvement. So it doesn't quite look the same as it did before. Again, I would say, you know, if you are thinking of playing around with this, do not do it unless you're familiar with playing with high voltage equipment. Don't just go and get a neon light transformer, 15,000 volt transformer, 30 milliamp off of eBay for 40 bucks or something, and connect it up, because you'll probably kill yourself. So don't do that. I just wanted to show you two things. The article's bigger than I recall. Sorry about this. Come on. The two bits that I wanted to show. Another video there. Oh yeah, okay. Now this is the diagram that Carl Polsness held up. Of course we couldn't see it, but he's showing the bars shorted at the top with a couple of lamps there. He's got a wavy line here suggesting that you could extend these and have more lamps on there. And there's one there with a low voltage lamp at the top, and then further down is a slightly higher voltage lamp. So that could be a 12 volt lamp, that could be a 40 volt lamp, this could be a 100 volt lamp, and there could be the exhausted tube. As the voltage gets higher as you go down the bars towards the source. And there you go. So there's the bottom with the feed arrangement. So he's showing a generator generating this high voltage AC. He's got his spark gap there, and the two capacitors in series with the two tubes. And I think I mentioned in the previous clip about the spark gap. You know, it jumps across, collapses the voltage, recovers, jumps across. It does it very, very quickly. Gives you the zzz, gives you the noise as it's doing that, and as it's doing that, it's charging and discharging these capacitors through the tubes, which form an inductance. It's a series tuned circuit. Nothing mystical, magical, suppressed, secret. Nothing, certainly nothing revolutionary. It's not a new kind of power. Right, so in this experiment, Tesla used 4 different incandescent light bulbs. Low voltage lamp, 50 volt lamp, 100 volt lamp, and an exhausted tube. And if we look at the diagram from bottom to top, that's the order they straddle the bars. So you've got the exhausted tube at the bottom, then the 100 volt lamp, and the 50 volt lamp, and then the low voltage lamp at the top. So remember, you've got the high voltage at the bottom of the bars closest to the source, and the lowest voltage at the top. And you can short the top out, and these others will still illuminate. And this is what the guy that replicated the experiment used. He used a 12 volt 10 watt car bulb, 50 volt 40 watt incandescent bulb, 110 volt 40 watt incandescent bulb, and an 8 watt fluorescent tube. And you can see his videos here of his lamp underwater. I've explained how that works. And this is quite interesting. Now, excuse me. What he's got here is a frequency counter. Now, it's not connected. It's not connected to the tube. There's no physical connection here. And what he's doing, he's reading off a frequency of 51.34320 kilohertz. And that's because it's a series tune. It's a series tuned radio frequency tuned circuit, basically high frequency AC. The majority of the energy is on 51.34320 kilohertz. There'll be a whole mess of energy there because spark gaps are very messy things. They'll generate very wide band noise, electromagnetic noise. So most of that energy is on 51 and a bit kilohertz. He's calculated, because he can measure the inductance of the copper pipe with the shorting bar at the top, and that's 182.23 microhenries. He knows what values his capacitors are, so because it's a standard formula, he's calculated that the resonant frequency of that circuit is 372.8 kilohertz. So if you actually drove it with 372.8 kilohertz, and you had a similar thing, just with the two bars and the two capacitors, you could probably put a light bulb across the bars and get it to light up, one of the lower voltage light bulbs, and get it to light up, simply because the RF energy will be induced into the close proximity resonant tuned circuit. Nothing magical, nothing revolutionary. You know, Tesla's transmitting energy through the air, yeah, but it's extremely inefficient. It's not a practical method of distributing power. And here's an oscilloscope just showing the waveform with the voltage coming up and collapsing and coming up and collapsing. So I think that'll do for that. As I say, I'll leave a link to this article below. You can read it if you're interested in that sort of thing. I'm sure you'll find it very interesting. And it'd be interesting to see what the chap's done. You can look at his videos and you can see his light underwater and his light bulbs up the different points up the bars illuminating. All right. Well, let's just have a look at a magnetic loop antenna. So what we're looking at here is a completely impractical thing. It's a toy, it's a party trick, it's just a bit of fun. Can't really do anything with it. A magnetic loop antenna, on the other hand, is a practical device and has been used by militaries and radio hams for quite some time, for decades probably. I can't remember when the magnetic loop antenna was invented, but it's a similar thing where you have you've got a series tuned circuit, and basically you've got a copper pipe, or it might be silver plated copper pipe, in a circle. It's got a half-inch gap in it, and you can see the different voltage and current distribution around that one single conductor. And again, not magical. It's all fully understood, fully compliant with the current laws of physics. Not suppressed, not secret. So let's take a look at the magnetic loop antenna, and we can see what this chap's done here. He's put up this caption. The purpose of this video is to settle the dispute about current distribution around a small loop of less than 1/10 of a wavelength. It's often said that the current is the same all around the small loop. This is wrong, and he's absolutely right. You get different. The current distribution and the voltage distribution around that single conductor is different. And people say, oh, you can't have 50 amps in this part of a bit of wire and practically zero a bit further along the same piece of wire and or pipe, and you certainly can when you're talking about radio frequency energy and you're talking about high frequency AC. To make these tests, I constructed an RF current meter out of an old SWR meter, standing wave ratio meter, a split ferrite sleeve, a diode and a resistor. I also used a fluorescent tube to indicate the high and low voltage points around the loop. This is not my video, of course. I'm reading this chap's caption. Quite like this tune, actually. this chap already. First, I will show you how the voltage is highest at the capacitor, 0 degrees, and lowest at 180 degrees. Excuse me. The fluorescent tube will light at the highest voltage next to the capacitor and drop out when V falls. So as he moves the fluorescent lamp around to the current point, the voltage is falling as the current is increasing. Okay, so what we have here... God. I will make it to the end of this video. Right, so what we have here is... This is a magnetic loop antenna. As I say, used by the military, used by ham radio operators. Because of its small physical size, you can see how small this one is by his hand. And he's holding a neon tube here. This is the feed. This will be a coaxial cable going through his transmitter. This is the little coupling loop. They're normally 1/5 in diameter of the size of the main loop for the most efficient transfer of energy from the small loop into the large loop, and for impedance matching to 50 ohms for the transmitter. The actual metal ring is continuous through here, right the way around here. There's a small gap in it here, and there's a variable capacitor across there, and you can adjust that capacitor depending on the frequency of the transmitter to make your loop resonant, make it resonate. So the lowest voltage point in the loop is here at the feed point, because the impedance is only 50 ohms. So you tend to have lots of current around the bottom half of the loop, and as it comes around to the top half of the loop, the current drops off and the voltage increases. Remember, this is just one copper pipe. All this with probably a 1-inch gap in it just there. See the voltage. What's making the tube illuminate is the as the voltage comes up towards the top, there's more energy there to excite the tube. Voltage is going down. It's getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. This has got nothing whatsoever to do with free energy or magic energy or anything else. This is just an amateur radio operator, ham radio operator, demonstrating voltage and current distribution in a magnetic loop antenna. Goes right up to a peak there. These capacitors are normally have ratings in the thousands of volts. And the bottom of the loop will do the same thing. No, I didn't know he was going to do that, but no, there is no connection from the end of the tube that he's holding to the loop, as there was in the Karl Plasner's demonstration. There is no physical connection whatsoever. Excellent demonstration, this. Very obviously you can see where the voltage is at the capacitor end of the loop, and there is very low or no voltage to speak of at the feed point where the cable comes in on the left hand side. it looks like his transmitter power might be dropping a little bit because he's had it keyed for a while. And amateur radio transmitters aren't designed for that. They're not like broadcasting transmitters. Well, they're designed to run at full output power for 24 hours a day forever. Amateur radio transmitters, if you what they call key down, if he's got it keyed down for a number of minutes, it might actually, the output power might be dropping off a little bit as the power amplifier and it heats up. It might be rolling its output power back. It's really quite groovy, this tune, isn't it? The loop is less than a tenth of a wavelength on 10 metres, 28.26 megahertz. So that's the frequency he's going to be driving the loop with, his high frequency AC, his radio frequency energy. 28.26 megahertz. It's much higher in frequency than what Tesla was doing. It probably would have been pretty hard for Tesla to generate that sort of frequency. With spark gaps, you do tend to they generate an awful lot of broadband crap, really. So you could sort of put your tune circuit on there and pick out the bit that you wanted. It's probably the way they did it. It would have been super crude, of course, but you know, back in 1895, that probably would have been state of the art. That's an excellent demonstration, and I think we've got the gist of that. So let's just go on to there's another bit in this where he's showing the current distribution. Now remember the voltage. The voltage was lowest here, 180 degrees, and 0 here. The voltage was highest. So the lamp was brighter on the right hand side of the picture. And now he's going to use an inductively coupled meter. So basically I think he's probably got a closed peg with a few turns of wire around it, and he's connected to a meter, and he's going to move that around the ring, and as he does so, he's going to show us where the current is highest in the loop. So with this lamp, he's showing us where the voltage is highest. With the meter, he's going to be showing us where the current is highest. Let's find it. Here we go. Hang on, let's just read his caption here. It's probably going to be a good one. The next clips show how the current is out of phase with the voltage, and it's lowest at 0 degrees next to the capacitor, and the highest is at 180 degrees. Now we know that has to be true. Because if it wasn't, you would be getting free energy. You'd be you'd have if you had high voltage and high current in the same place at the same time, then you would have certainly with the levels measured here, you'd have a lot more energy than you're actually putting into the loop, and that can't happen. Physics says that is not possible, and of course it's not. That's why the voltage and current is out of phase. So the actual power at any given point around the loop is not going to exceed what you're putting into it, less the losses of the circuit. Okay, now I don't know if you can see that very clearly, but you can see the needle indicating the current right over to the right hand side. Lots of current there at the feed point. As he moves this around to the voltage peak over here, you'll see this will drop off. This needle will drop back to the left hand side. So remember, this is all just one conductor. This is all just one conductor. So you can see the current falling. It's fallen already. And and he gets round to where the highest voltage was, and there's the minimum current. Minimum current where the highest voltage appeared on the loop. That's a better shot. And yeah, the same would be true at the bottom as well. If he took this off and clipped it on the other side of the capacitor and ran around the bottom of the loop, you would see exactly the same thing. The current is highest at 180 degrees, where the voltage was lowest, remember? And lowest at 0 degrees next to the capacitor, where the voltage was highest. And this is all one continual metal ring, apart from the 1 inch gap where the capacitor is. Half-inch gap maybe. SWR meter, diode and split ferrite on a spring peg. Very simple setup. Excellent demonstration. And just in case you do have the IQ of a spaniel, he's just going to show us that again. Well, there you go. I think that demonstrates very effectively what's going on with Tesla's bars as well. So that's why, if you could imagine where the capacitor is on Tesla's bars is where the highest voltage is. As you get towards the short at the top, which is where 180 degrees would be on this, the voltage is dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping, and anywhere across the loop you're going to have a different voltage. So that you could imagine hanging the lamps across that loop, or if you flatten that loop out, you're going to end up with something that looks a lot like Tesla's bars, and as you move the lamp along, it will get dark. It will get brighter and dimmer. So there we go. So you can put a line through the Tesla hairpin experiment as being anything other than something that's completely understood, and a bit of a party trick. Something interesting to look at because it's high frequency AC, and to non-technical people it may appear as magic. All right, let's just see what else we got in here. Okay, so pretty weary stuff. This is at the beginning of this presentation. Infinite energy, but not for the masses. Andrew Johnson. Energy information suppression or whatever.
I also, part of my degree was in physics, and I did a degree in computer science and physics. So, my interest in energy technologies and the physics that goes along with that stems from those times when I did physics at university. I don't have any advanced degrees. I don't know anybody with access to classified information. I don't know anyone in the military. Basically, I don't know anything. So you don't believe what I'm saying. Just check this all out for yourself.
Yeah, okay. Well, up until now, I've never believed anything Andrew Johnson has said, but I certainly believe that. He knows nothing, and check it out for yourself. Is certainly sage advice. So so when we do check this stuff out for ourselves, we find, or when I check this stuff out for myself, I find there's nothing to it. I would like to find something to it, but I just can't. The more I look, the more ridiculous these claims seem to be. So Andrew did physics as part of his university degree. He did computer science, and part of that was physics, yet he seems to have very little understanding of physics. Either he really doesn't know what he's looking at and he thinks there might be something to these free energy devices and the Hutchison effect, or he does understand it and he knows it's all rubbish, but he chooses to keep spruiking it because it keeps him in front of an audience. He might enjoy a little bit of micro fame. I think he writes books, doesn't he? He might make a few quid out of it. Yeah, regardless, Andrew Johnson is not worth listening to. Whatever he presents is he doesn't present any evidence. It's fair enough to say check it out for yourself, but you know, it's he's got a YouTube channel called Check the Evidence. Yet it's not something he seems to do himself. So, so that's it as far as Andrew Johnson is concerned. I've completely lost interest in Andrew Johnson. I don't think he offers any evidence for any of the things he puts forward. I've taken his advice and I've looked for myself, and I see nothing whatsoever. Now, I'm just going to move this on a bit. Shall I stop the camera, or shall I just move it on and see if I get to the right spot? I'll stop the camera. Okay, just moved it on, or back a bit, I can't remember which.
That clip actually pretty much covered all of it. Control the energy, control the people.
Yeah, this is spruiked by a lot of these free energy people. Control the energy and you control the people, and that's bloody nonsense. I mean, are you do you feel controlled by your electricity provider? Do you feel controlled by the people that make petrol for your car? It's not all the same person, is it? You know, if you've got competing companies, you've got Caltex, Shell, BP. Do you feel controlled by any of those companies? Here in Western Australia, we have Western Power, the electricity provider. Now, if they said to me, Mr. Mumbling, you haven't paid your bill, we're cutting your power off, I wouldn't. I'd say, yeah, okay, all right, I'll get some solar panels, get an inverter, you know, to convert the energy from the solar panels into AC energy to run all my appliances. How is the energy company controlling me? I could just put them out of the loop altogether. It's harder to do with a car, of course. But you know, I go to BP, fill the car up. Go to Shell, fill the car up. How are they controlling me? You know, that I'm not told by Shell where to go to use that petrol, am I? I'm not told by BP I can only use that petrol in certain areas or to go to certain destinations. There is no control there. This is rubbish. It's absolute twaddle, nonsense.
As Bruce De Palma said, and we're going to come back to this, what about setting up a group based on transcendental principles to bring free energy to the world?
Set up a group based on transcendental principles to bring to bring free energy to the world. Yeah, okay. I'll get on eBay and order a turban and some joss sticks. I think. Actually, I could go down the chemist. I could make a start with transcendental floss. Couldn't I? Absolute nonsense. Yeah, so you can psychically will it to be real or transcendental. What does transcendental mean? Yeah, it's something like that, isn't it? It's mystic. It's some sort of mystic energy. You can will it to be true. Yeah, absolute rubbish, nonsense.
We're going to come back to that.
I don't think we'll be rushing, to be honest.
So, Bruce De Palma himself, I mean, he does have a website now. I suggest you go and read it, brucedepalma.com. And there's some very interesting emails and stuff that you can download between him and Adam Trombley, I'm going to mention in a minute, about this whole business with the M machine. Now, if you go and read various web pages about the M machine, you'll come up with some interesting things. For example, Bruce De Palma died in I think it was 1997, which again I'll mention a bit later. This was not a surprise, his death, considering the condition I had seen Bruce in when I visited him in December 1993. Bruce began each day upon arising, sometime before noon, with fine wine mixed with sparkling water.
Yeah, okay, so if he's rising just before noon, like most of the free energy people, what he's doing, he's coming up with these crazy things. He's putting on a bit of a show. You know, a little bit like the Tesla hairpin thing, that sort of thing bamboozles non-technical people. They think it's something a little out there. And, you know, if you told somebody that was a free energy machine and hid the transformer, you might be able to suck in some investment money. And most of these free energy things are all about that. You know, they've got an idea, they need your money to develop it into something practical. And what's really happening to your money, of course, is these people are getting up at noon and spending it on wine, and it's allowing them to muddle their way through life without actually having a job. That's what most of these free energy projects are all about.
Years of alcohol and substance abuse finally took its toll. The mystique and the enigma that encircled the life of Bruce De Palma was due in part to the fact that he was never able to prove his theories with a working over-unity device. Oh really? Oh really? So why on earth would Edgar Mitchell go to him and say, if you go around doing this in Southern California, you're going to get your head blown off? Well,
do we have any evidence of that? You know, is this just another thing that somebody's made up? This is a common theme as well that runs through the free energy field. And I think I mentioned in a previous video that one of my work colleagues, ex-work colleagues, was heavily into this free energy business, and he was just a nutcase. And you know, he was always looking around to see if I was working out with him, looking around to see if he was being followed. And we're sitting in the cafe, you know, having some lunch, and he'd say something like, "Oh, let's hope there's no bullets come whistling through the window." Absolute rubbish, of course. Absolute bloody nonsense. Now, is there any evidence of this, of Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, saying that to him? I suspect not. Is there any evidence of the end machine working? Because that the thing that sheet of information that Andrew Johnson was reading from said that he was never able to prove the end machine worked. So it's just it's the same story over and over and over again. You know, they can never demonstrate it. You can't inspect it. They need your money to make it work. And of course, it's all nonsense. There's no such thing as free energy. There's no such thing as a free energy machine or device. So, you know, be mindful if you're thinking of it. Quote marks, investing, close quote marks, in a free energy company. Your money is going to be going on bottles of wine and keeping someone from having to have a real job rather than any kind of real research. I mean, they might make get a motor and some car batteries and light bulbs and make up a bit of a prop to suck some money in, but that's all it will ever be. It's never ever going to be a real free energy device. Okay, let's see what we got next. Okay, let's just have a look at another one of these things.
Here's another one, not an end machine. Let's have a look at this one.
And to another good idea, and imagine a machine that could power your house for free.
And you'll have to, because that's the only way you're ever going to get to see one.
Well, that's exactly what two Australian inventors claim they've developed. Using magnets and a battery, their new generator has been described as revolutionary, and foreign investors are...
By whom, exactly? Who described it as revolutionary?
Lining up for a piece of the action.
Ah, yeah, sorry, I should have let that play. Now, this is the crux of the matter here. This is the crux of it, right here. Let's just go back.
And say, if you go around doing this in Southern California, you're going to get your head blown off.
Has been described as revolutionary, and foreign investors are lining up for a piece of the action. Chris Allen reports.
Foreign investors are lining up for a piece of the action. So that's what it's all about. You make a reasonably, technical looking prop, just like this thing, and you get all these foreign investors lining up to give you their money because they think they're going to make a profit out of it. They don't realise that all they're doing is, providing you with a pretty good lifestyle, providing the free energy guy with a pretty good lifestyle without him having to answer to a boss, get up in the morning, go to work on a train or, whatever. It's that's all this is about. None of this is real.
So, John, this is the machine?
Yes, this is it, Chris.
What's it capable of?
A little powerhouse. The machine will provide sufficient electricity to run a house.
Now, if this was true, the machine would be running, and it would be running his house, and he would be able to show the reporter that there was no power feed coming in from the utility company. There's no power cable going to his house. A lot of power in Australia is aerial overhead cables going to houses. Not where I am, but in a lot of places, especially if this is a rural place, the power will go on just like telegraph poles down the street and off to the individual houses. You could show there's no power feed to his house. He could show he's got no solar panels on the roof. There'd be a way of demonstrating that his generator was running his house. He's telling him it can run a house, but he's not showing him that it can run a house. There's two words that always destroy all of these ridiculous claims. Two simple words. Show me. And there's always a reason why they can't show you. The boss isn't well. Oh, I dropped it. We need to fix it up before you come and inspect it. The dog's eaten my homework.
They're power to burn.
It sounds too good to be true.
That's because it is.
But inventor John Christie is convinced his machine will change the world. So, John, basically you're saying this machine can produce 5 times as much power as it consumes?
Yes, it does. This one, exactly as we see it, it does. And in fact, it can produce more than that.
And again, he's telling him, he's not showing him.
Once kick-started from a battery, John and his partner Lou Britt say this prototype will run for years without stopping, generating 24 kilowatts of power a day.
You don't get more revolutionary, I think. We're talking about something that has the capacity to change the way that the world produces it.
It's not showing any kind of load, is it? Again, this is a prop. It's not showing how they're loading it. It's not showing how much energy is coming out of it. It's not showing how it's maintaining its rotational motion.
It's electric power. It has the capacity to change the way that cars are.
Now, this looks quite old, doesn't it? So, if people are queuing up, look at the aspect ratio of the picture. It's 4:3. 4:3 televisions haven't been around for quite some time. So, what's this guy's name? John Christie. Okay, well, let's just have hang on, let's just listen to something else. This is what else he's got to say.
Are propelled. We can replace the combustion engine, in fact.
John, these are big claims. Are you sure you can live up to them?
We don't really need to live up to them, Chris. So what the technology speaks for itself.
A householder could buy one of these machines and install it in his garage and power his house forever without buying another kilowatt from a retailer. That's how serious it is.
Steve Brassington is an independent...
Yeah, okay. That's how serious it is. Well, people are doing that in Australia today, every day. They're putting solar panels. So, Australia, we get loads of sunshine. You can put a solar array on your roof, get an inverter, get some backup batteries for night time, and just disconnect yourself from the utility company. It's happening all the time. Never pay for another kilowatt. What was this guy's name? John Christie. Okay, well let's just have a look to see what happened to John Christie's free energy machine. Okay, well, very little googling has shown up that the John Christie device was not real, of course. This is Australian ratbags.com. Lutech. Apparently John Christie's company was called Lutech Australia. The site disappeared in 2012. Apparently there was not enough perpetual free energy to keep the lights on. Lutech, all the energy you can eat. One of the great nonsenses of pseudoscience that never seems to go away is the perpetual motion machine. They aren't called that these days, of course, because everyone knows that such things are impossible. The new name is free energy device, but the principle is the same. A recent example of this genre is the Lutech 100, a generator which, according to the inventors, is 3,000% efficient. The Lutech people once said that they were going to accept the $100,000 challenge from the Australian skeptics, but for some reason they eventually lost interest. They were awarded the 2001 Bent Spoon Award for their efforts at overthrowing physics. I thought I would see what they were up to in their attempt to solve all the world's energy problems, so I sent them the following email. I have not yet received a reply, but if I could predict the future, I would say the reply will be either a set of answers to some other questions or some abuse and patronising suggestions that I don't understand what they're doing. Okay, I'm planning a future article. Anyway, this guy's written to them, and he's posed a few questions, the sort of questions that upset these sort of people. Someone mentioned the Lutech 1000 to me, and I wonder if you could explain how your perpetual motion machine differs from all the other ones that have gone before. I'll leave a link to this and you can read it for yourself. Is there a working model of your machine anywhere that can be observed continually for a meaningful amount of time? I don't mean just for a few hours. Dennis Lee has been pulling that trick at his demonstration for years, but for several days or even weeks, and he goes on like that. But basically it's the old show me, you know. Don't stand there and tell me what it can do. You know, you've got a thing in your shed and it's rotating. You're telling me it can run your house. Show me it running your house. Don't just have it running on a bench and tell me it can run your house. All of these free energy devices are the same. They're all props, just like movie props, and they are designed to bring in investment money. Free energy is impossible. It's science fiction. It is not real. Okay, so I'm not really sure which order these clips are going to be joined together in. So the next clip may be our old mate John Hutchison. Okay, so the reporter did actually get a response from his email saying he sent to John Christie at Lutech and saying, you know, can I see one of your machines working? This is the response, and obviously in the email, the reporter has said, is this just a thing to get in investment money, and you know, is it a scam? Hi Peter. You will, just like everyone else, have to wait and see. Incidentally, we don't take people's money. We don't want it. Regards, John Christie. Now, he then went and looked at the front page of the Lutech Australia website, and it says, now this is the guy that's just said he doesn't want anyone's money. 10 D-class shares in Lutech are now available to sophisticated investors only. Price is Australian dollars 100,000 each, so it's $1 million he wants there. Application must include a letter from your accountant confirming sophisticated investor status. The reference to sophisticated investors is a way of circumventing the legal requirement for a company to issue a prospectus if it wants to make a public offer to sell shares. A prospectus has to be approved by the relevant authorities before being issued, and there are severe penalties for inaccuracies in a prospectus, as a reasonable case could be made that statements like a typical Lee system is 440% over unity could be seen as inaccurate if the reference is to be if the reference is to something existing in the real world. It is very handy that there is a loophole in the document saying what they want is the money for a sophisticated investor is a legal fiction. Okay. It is someone who is assumed to be capable of making investment decisions based on an independent assessment of the risk, whereas a normal investor needs to be told things like financial details and projections, scientific evidence for scientific claims, and the truth. I thought that the relevant authorities might like to know about Lutech, and you can see complaint number, there it is, to the Australian Securities and Investment Commission. Yeah, okay. So very obviously, you know, it's the Lutech free energy machine is no such thing. It's just a prop to suck in some cash. Again, no evidence of free energy. Zero evidence. So now maybe we'll get to John Hutchison. Just as a quick reminder, we have John Hutchison, in his own words, describing himself as a raving lunatic.
I'm a raving lunatic.
And of course, we can't really we can't really leave John Hutchison without seeing John in a frock.
Form tend to be psyops that progress across the Atlantic. My crew thinks they should mutiny. They think I've lost my marbles. However,
I really can't imagine. Why on earth would anybody think John Hutchison is a nutcase?
There's a couple of men in white coats. Oh, hello. How are you doing today? Fine? Fine. Fine. What do you guys want? This called be the Lucy dreaming of you. Thorazine, what for?
I looked that up. That's actually an antipsychotic medication. Yeah, okay. So there we go. We can put a line through John Hutchison. We can put a line through the Tesla hairpin experiment as being anything unusual. Let's see what other pearls of wisdom we can glean from the Andrew Johnson presentation. Okay, not too much more of this to go, fortunately.
Okay, we're going to probably run short of time, but Stan Meyer's cell as well. This is an extremely interesting device. I think was mentioned on Friday, and this is also an electrolytic type of process. And I think it is thought to produce hydrogen, and that's what is claimed in this video clip. But it may be some other gas, not.
Oh, okay. So this is not a free energy device. This one is running your car on water. Being able to split hydrogen and oxygen from water and feeding it straight into the motor. I think that's what this is. Hang on, let's have a look.
Could actually cripple the United States, and realizing that the entire industrial base of the United States and the world is based on the supply and the utilization of energy, it became imperative that we must try to bring in an alternate fuel source and do it very quickly.
Same old banter over and over and over again. You know, the world supply of energy. You know, someone has to control the world supply of energy.
Of course, I thought originally with the right type of funding, we could possibly get it in within 6
With the right type of funding. Yet again, the same language. You know, exactly the same stuff. Doesn't matter what device it is. Water-powered cars, free energy devices. With the right kind of funding, we can do this. So what happens when people ask this guy to show me? Show me your water-powered car.
6 months, but reality shows that the 12 to 15 years was more correct in this projection.
Yeah, just keep the money coming in for 10 or 12 years. That way I don't have to get a job.
Back in the 70s, Stan Meyer set out single-handedly to solve America's energy problems. He decided to do it using water, the world's most abundant, no formal qualifications as a scientist.
Well, that's a surprise.
Because he didn't wait to graduate from high school, leaving early to go straight into research at the high-powered Battelle Institute in his native Ohio.
What sort of research, I wonder? Be interesting to see some evidence of what he was researching and what part he took in this research. Here we go. He's got his cell here with loads of bubbles.
It almost boils the water. If I did this with standard electrochemicals, I need current. And the water should rise a degree every couple of seconds.
Okay. So we can see the gas roaring off of the tubes there. That's what it appears to be doing anyway. This could be a prop of some kind, of course. We don't know the liquid in there is water. Don't know what sort of voltage is being applied to it. Let's get to his water-powered car. Oh, here we go. And then we'll have a look at the Wikipedia page for this guy.
This application of this technology would change the 21st century in the same way that the Wright brothers and Carl Benz transformed the 20th. He is currently modifying a beach buggy to run on nothing but water. It doesn't have a petrol tank or even a hydrogen container. It has just a tank of water. He's invented a device called a water splitter to replace the spark plug. As the water is injected into the engine, Meyer claims it's fractured into hydrogen and oxygen and then burned as fuel.
Yeah, doesn't say actually what ignites it, does it?
Meyer is working on
Well, if you're taking the spark plug out, you know, and you're using the hole that the spark plug would normally occupy for your hydrogen oxygen injector splitter, where's the spark being generated to ignite it?
a kit to modify any engine. He hopes to demonstrate it on this car within 12 months.
You see, the demonstration is always in the future. You know, it always needs more money to get to the demonstration so that you can see it working. Show me it working. Or I need more money, I need more time. The same thing over and over and over again.
And of course, the blessing to the use of the water as a fuel source, that on combustion, the byproduct is water mist. So we're even solving the environmental pollution problem at the same time that we're using water to maintain the industrial bases of the world.
What a genius.
Meyer is protective about his inventions to the point of self-confessed paranoia. Most observers describe him as a crank, and his car as an aberration. If only a fraction of what Meyer claims for his technology can be achieved, it would represent a vindication for NASA's involvement. It would also be a powerful threat to many entrenched vested interests.
If Stan Meyer's device works, like he
Do we have any evidence of any kind of NASA involvement with this thing?
advertises, you would make energy available universally, almost free. That is a major, major, major impact.
When new technology comes in existence, there's a great resistance to it because it can affect a lot of economic factors.
Oh, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, solar power, no one's resisting that, are they? When someone came up with the idea of drilling holes in the ground and using oil, you know, instead of wood, you know, no one resisted that, did they? No, absolute nonsense. All right. well, as I said before, getting a bit weary of this stuff, so we'll just have a quick look at the Stan Mayer Wikipedia page, and I think then we'll wrap it up. I'll leave a link to this below as well. This is from Wikipedia. Sorry if my reading is atrocious when I do this, but I'm reading through a camera viewfinder. It makes it harder to read it. Stanley Meyer's water fuel cell. Water fuel cell redirects here. Oh, okay. Yeah, the water fuel cell is a technical design of a perpetual motion machine created by American Stanley Allen Meyer. He's dead as well, 1998. Meyer claimed that an automobile retrofitted with the device could use water as fuel instead of gasoline. Meyer's claims about his water fuel cell and the car that it powered were found to be fraudulent by an Ohio court in 1996. Now, I think there's something a little bit further down where he was ordered to pay. There's a description of how it purportedly works. It got a lot of media coverage apparently. So I'll leave a link below to this, so you can actually you can have a look at it yourself and see what you think of it. But it's all rubbish, of course. Lawsuit. In 1996, Meyer was sued by two investors to whom he had sold dealerships offering the right to do business in water fuel cell technology. His car was due to be examined by the expert witness Michael Lawton, Professor of Electrical Engineering at Queen Mary University of London and Fellow of the Royal Academy of Engineering. However, these inspections, of course, never take place. Doesn't matter what the device is, as soon as they get an expert, they are never inspected. However, Meyer made what Professor Lawton considered a lame excuse on the days of examination and did not allow the test to proceed. His water fuel cell was later examined by three expert witnesses in court who found that there was nothing revolutionary about the cell at all. It was simply using conventional electrolysis. The court found Meyer had committed gross and egregious fraud and ordered him to repay the two investors their $25,000. Okay, so there we go. That's the story you hear over and over again with regard free energy devices. You know, show me. People are never shown. They always want your money to make it work. It's always in development. Yeah, you can come and inspect it, and then when you want to inspect it, the inspection doesn't take place. There's always an excuse. I think I mentioned, you know, the chap that, the ex-work colleague that was involved with free energy. He asked me if I wanted to see a demonstration of this free energy device. I had to, if I wanted to do that, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and I said, would I be allowed to inspect the device? And he said no. I said I wouldn't waste my time. Because you know, they'll show me the thing on a bench running or lighting up some light bulbs, but they're not going to let me have a look at it so that I can see how it's actually doing that. And I think that's you know, the obvious reason for that is that there's some batteries hidden in it somewhere. There's something powering it somewhere. The device that can run a house. He tells the reporter it can run a house. He doesn't show him running a house. It's the same old story over and over and over again. And the reason for that is it's rubbish. There is absolutely nothing whatsoever in any of these free energy devices. And I think we'll leave it there. I mean, you know, Andrew Johnson shows, I'm getting tired here, shows a list. He goes through a whole list of things, you know, the Bedini motor, the N motor, the water-powered car, Stephen Greer with his free energy, put a line through Greer, he hasn't demonstrated free energy or anything else. I'll probably charge him money to see something that he calls a free energy device. You know, Andrew Johnson tells us a lot of these inventors are dead. Well, you know, people die, whether they're inventors or not. I may have said that previously. So there is nothing to it. It's all cod's wallop. All right, well, mercifully, we've got to the end. So if you've struggled through this video all the way to this point, many thanks for your persistence. And yes, thanks for watching. And if I haven't been bumped off by the men in black or be bored to death by watching Miles Johnson or one of the other cretins, I may catch you again.